Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for that field. Power hitting theory suggests that when you bat fifth in the lineup, you have a great on base percentage. There's no doubt you are a highly ranked power hitter. This hitter has been a real estate broker for over 30 years. He was a partner at Champion Realty, a multi office regional brokerage in Maryland, which joined Home Services in 1999. He was president and CEO of Champion until recently taking on the national role of VP of Industry Relations for Home Services of America and Berkshire Hathaway Home Services real estate brand. He's been included in the Swain Pool list of the most influential executives in real estate numerous times. Last year, he was the chair of NAR's MLS Issue and Policy Committee, which implemented major important changes to MLS policy that Mitch covered earlier. This year, he is the chair of NAR's MLS Technology and Emerging Issues Advisory Board and serves as a member of NAR's MLS statewide data share presidential advisory group. John, I've seen you many times at the national level speak and control an audience of 1,000 people discussing MLS issues. And welcome, JonCoile, everybody. And thank you, John.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. It's great to be here. You got some great speakers. Mitch, you couldn't ask for a better lawyer to really explain things. And Chris Carrillo and I, we spent the first year of COVID on 2.5 hours of Zooms every week for pretty much like 7 months. And it was a great experience. We were working on MLS standards, and a lot of great things came out through the MLS committee from that. But I want to say, if you bump into Chris at mid-year or at NAR or any of these conferences or whatever, you should immediately take him to a bar and buy him a drink, because that guy is a real legitimate hero. He, in his youth, was in the Army and he was military police, and he and his partner apprehended the 20th terrorist who was going to crash airplanes on 9/11. So he's a real hero. So buy him a drink and also just hear all his stories and hear his views on the MLS world. By the way, he mentioned, where's Bright going by working? Bright is the Mid-Atlantic 100,000 member MLS, and then California Regional is California with about 100,000 members or 120,000. And why are we working together? And the reality is we just took one right out of Chris's playbook, where he took Wisconsin and Arizona and combined, started working together. And you heard now talking about Florida and other places. So there's a lot of collaboration going on in the real estate world. The topic that Megan asked me to talk about, Jeff asked me to talk about, is really probably better suited for Chris than for me, but I'll take a crack at it. And so the question was, what are the best tools that the MLS has, and where are they going, and what's coming up? So let me go ahead and dive into that. And I thought, as I was thinking about how to present that, you go to the next slide there. There's a concept called the blinking 12 problem. And then there's another concept in technology called the power user. So we'll go to the next slide and talk about blinking 12. If you remember back into our youth, go ahead and advance there. In the 80s and 90s, VCRs had a clock and it had the number 12 blinking. And to set the time, you had to use this humongous remote and push a whole bunch of buttons in a very complicated order that was not intuitively obvious. If you lost power, the clock went back and was just blinking 12. First question is, why didn't they just put a little battery into the VCR to keep the signal going when you lost power? But they didn't. Second, why didn't they make it one button to set the time? So that's an early example of technology where you really had bad interface, bad user experience. It wasn't possible to set the time. Go to the next slide. This is actually from eBay this week. You can go to eBay and you can buy this giant jumbo universal remote. You can see how big the freaking thing is. It's ridiculous. it still has as many buttons to set the time as it did back in the day. It was just a smaller thing. So now you can read them. You still don't know how to do it. It's still blinking 12 if you were to have a VCR. I don't think many people do anymore. And we all know, obviously, with cable, we're getting the time signal through the cable, so we don't have to do that anymore. But let's go to the next slide and let's talk about a power user. So a power user is not a programmer. They're somebody who's just an extensive user of technology. They know the feature set, not just the tools you use every day. They're not nerds. And the way they become a power user is they just become a tech explorer. So let's talk about that in our world. So why become a tech explorer? You know, you search, you use the MLS. The number one use is to search for listings. Where are your buyers and sellers doing that? We all know they're going to Zillow, they're going to Redfin, they're going to Realtor.com. That's where they're searching. And frankly, I talked to some agents who say that they start their search at Redfin or Zillow or Realtor because they can just jump on really quick and whatever, which is kind of ridiculous. But at any rate, if all you do with the MLS is search, your clients know all that you know, and you don't have a different value proposition. And we need to build the value of ourselves as realtors and the value of the MLS and organized real estate. So we'll go to the next slide. So why become a tech explorer? The first one is the MLS is so much more than just search. There are tons of stuff in there. And second, you are so much more than just a lockbox key with feet. You know, you've got a tremendous value proposition, and you have to be selling that all the time. You know, it was a great, I think it was Patrick who was saying, you know, if you have crappy photos or one photo because you know it's going to sell in the first 2 hours that it's on the listing on the market anyway, why bother taking good photos? You're not building your value proposition, and the market is not always going to be as hot as it is right now. It's going to cool. So let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about what's in the MLS the public doesn't have. Hey, the first one is public records. How many times, if you're an agent or a broker, have you been on a listing presentation and they say, well, the house across the street sold for, and they make up a number because they don't really know? Well, we know, we have all that data. Let's go to the next one is sold and settled data. We know what's sold, what's settled, and the real deals of the transaction is as good as an appraiser. We have access to showings. We are the lockbox with a heartbeat. We can get them inside. We have access to contracts and forms. And not only do we have contracts, they're up to date, they're accurate, they're reflecting the current law. And as laws change, they're updated. We have access to document signing so people can sign remotely. We have all of those kind of tools. So we'll go to the next slide. What else? So here's where you start to get deeper into the MLS. And this is why you need to be an explorer. You need to just start rummaging around and see what's in there. First off, we have CMA and pricing tools. But, you know, if you look and, you know, there's 3 major MLSs that are represented on this call. So there's a little bit different tools for everybody. So you need to be your own explorer and roam around your MLS and find out what you have. But you may be surprised. In some cases, they have multiple CMA tools. You might have cloud CMA. You might have an embedded CMA that came with the MLS operating system. There may be something else. So dig around and see what you have. And let me give you a tip on that. We'll go to the next slide. Next click is market stats. We can also get data. So when you're going on a listing presentation, you're not just bringing multiple CMAs, you're also bringing market stats to help them understand the pace of the market. Obviously, right now, it's super fast, but you can slow it down by overpricing a property. I don't know if you've experienced that, but you know, you price too high and they sit and then they languish. But the next one is RPR. RPR is not broadly embraced as deep as it should be. But let me give you a suggestion on a listing presentation. If you're going on a listing presentation, print out the Zestimate, print out every different form of CMA that's in your MLS, create your own CMA, and go to RPR and print out a report. They'll print out like an extensive 50-page plus report. You get all these different sources and you put them all in a 3-ring binder. When you go in on a listing presentation, when you're about to talk about what you should price the property at, you've got a ton of data that they don't have access to, and it just makes you look like the smartest person in the room. Use those tools. If you don't use those tools, you're missing out, and you're the one who's missing out. The MLS is going to keep providing you more stuff. Now, when you get a listing, putting it on List Hub is a way to advertise your property broadly. It goes to a bunch of different websites. Now, it's not just pushed out to all the Trulias and Realtor.coms and places like that. It also, this is where the MLS really earns their value. They're making sure that the rules of engagement that those portals are using are protecting your data, and they're not doing something with your data that you don't want them to do with it. So List Hub is great. It also, List Hub will create a report for you to give to your seller on which websites are displaying their listing, how often is it being clicked on, those kind of things. So there's a lot of stuff there. And then the next one is HomeSnap. HomeSnap is a great app. I think you have it. It's part of what's called the broker public portal, and the idea was that all of us participants, all of us brokers, should get together and have a website, an app that people can use all over the country, so that when you're traveling, if you're moving from Texas to Colorado, you can use the HomeSnap app, and you can see when you're roaming around Colorado what's for sale, and look at all the listings. So it's a great tool, and it was put in place by brokers. Okay, what about buyers? So that was all good for sellers. What about buyers? There's collaboration centers, and there's collaboration centers that exist now, and there's more coming all the time that MLSs are doing. And what it is it's to try and collaborate between a buyer and the buyer's agent, so that they're seeing the same listings and being able to communicate back and forth. HomeSnap is a great app for your buyers, and the way to do that is you, as a buyer's agent, give the app to your buyer, and then they're tagged to you. So then that way you know what they're looking at, and you can communicate, collaborate back and forth inside HomeSnap. Your MLS has financial tools for you, both figuring out closing costs, but also figuring out mortgages and things like that. You have automatic email notifications for saved searches. So if you have a buyer looking for a certain thing, you can be sending them an automatic email of what they're looking for. And then there's mapping tools, and some of the mapping tools are getting great. Drive time calculators. So if you have two working spouses, and one works in one place, one works in another, and they want to have a 20-minute commute each, where does that overlap? What neighborhoods could they be in? All kinds of mapping tools that are helpful. Okay. Other things for agents that an MLS provides. Number one is training. All you have to do is ask, and you'll find out that they do more training than you can imagine, whether that's online, whether that's in person, whether it's small group, big group, in your office, all kinds of stuff. They want you to know what they've got for you. You're paying for it, so you might as well know. Second thing is, a lot of MLSs are doing training through YouTube videos. YouTube has become, we jokingly call it YouTube University. I bought my COVID project was to buy a 40-year-old boat and rehab it. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I would get stuck on a problem, and I would just go to YouTube University and find a video about what I was specifically trying to do, how to bleed a diesel fuel system or whatever. And I'd watch a 4-minute video and then feel really smart and go do it, and have to do it like 3 times to get it right. But the bottom line is I didn't have to watch a 2-hour show about diesel engines. I could watch a 4-minute thing about how to bleed the injectors. Same thing with the MLS. We're doing a lot of small videos to teach you about features. So look into that and see what's available for you. Webinars, especially about new products, when new things come out. And you heard, I think we heard Sarah talking about that she loves to go to the convention and roam the floor and see what can she find to bring back for the MLS, to bring a new product back. Well, when you launch a new product, you end up, it's great to do a webinar for a lot of people, and then you just keep training on it. So if you miss the training, don't worry, it's coming back around. Just let them know they want to train you. Safe showing tools. After that tragedy with Beverly Carter being murdered at a remote showing, there's all kinds of safe showing tools. and things, and more coming all the time, because realtor safety is a crazy world we live in, but that's a very important, critical aspect, and every MLS is paying attention to it, and so is NAR. Next is IDX distribution. So internet data exchange, that's all of our websites. So it's all the listing inventory comes and powers our website, and we also give permission for our listings to go to every other broker. So it gets more exposure for our sellers. It's great, but it requires what Chris was referring to, in that it requires some supervision and making sure that it doesn't get out of hand or go in the wrong places, or somebody using our data inappropriately. So they keep an eye on that for you. And then showing time, or any other showing software. And Chris pointed out why they don't want to, in their MLS, use showing time and want to pivot to somewhere else. I will tell you, there's a number of places to pivot to now. There really wasn't. There was sort of one game in town a year ago, but now there's a lot of choices. So, but that's provided. And if you were in this business, I got licensed in 1988, and it was a pain in the neck to show. You had to call every individual broker and hope somebody was answering the phone and make an appointment. And now we have it where we can do it with an app. We can do it with our smartphone. It's great. All right. Let's talk about what else for agents. There's a lot of money being spent by the MLS to make sure that they're providing a great product for you, because frankly, all of the MLSs are competing with all the other MLSs, and they want to provide the best experience for you. So in some cases, you have customer relationship management tools, things like Top Producer. In some cases, you have great tools that are free, others that are deep discounts. Explore it. Be that tech explorer and see what's available to you. List Hub broker reports I mentioned briefly earlier. Your sellers right now, sellers expect a contract within a couple days. If it's a couple weeks, they're going, hey, what have you done for me lately? Well, this is an example to give you a broker report that you can then provide to your sellers to show, hey, look, we had this many showings, and I think maybe we were overpriced and missed the market, because that's not why it's not moving, or you need to make your bet, or whatever you need to do. Community reports. People want to know more about the community, especially we're starting to become a very mobile society again. We were hunkered down for a while, but now people, as they're coming out of COVID, are thinking, where do I want to live? Because I can work remotely now. And so we've got community reports. People they're not necessarily moving across the block or across town. They're coming from out of area. So those kind of things are available. New homes. Since the new homes are selling so fast, a lot of builders aren't listing with an agent, and they're going direct. And yet they'll honor you as a buyer agent if you bring a buyer in. So in a lot of cases, MLSs are helping to give you a central repository to new home listing data, which will help you out. Smart syndication. So we talked a little bit about List Hub, and List Hub has almost 80 different websites that they'll send your data to. Smart syndication is you can go to a website as the broker, as the participant, and you can say, you know what, I do want it to go to realtor.com. I want it to go to Trulia. I want it to go here. I want it to go there, but I don't want it to go to elookyloo.com or some weird website you've never heard of, and you just don't want your listings out there. You can turn that off. It's a radio button. You can just go click on the button and say they don't get our data, and that's a syndication that the MLS manages for you. And then the other thing is, Chris, I think, was discussing it. Maybe someone else on that panel, which, by the way, that panel was great. I really enjoyed it. But commercial listings, and what are we doing for commercial? Commercial is so different than residential, and just merging the data into the regular residential database isn't the best use of the data. So a lot of MLSs are seeing what can they do to help out their commercial agents. So how do you become a tech explorer? It's pretty simple. Number one, you can't break it. So just get on there and start banging on keys. Just start exploring, start poking around. Sign up for training. There's, like I said, training. And frankly, the first key you bang on should be something about about training. And so you can see what's coming and sign up for it. Watch YouTube on whatever the important thing is of that moment. How do you add a virtual tour or whatever it is? And then finally, just ask. The MLS wants you to be a power user. They want you to know everything that's available to you, and they want you to love the MLS. And so they're gonna help you as much as they can. And that leads to my final, and that is the MLS is here for us, and it wants us to be the smartest person in the transaction. We're organized real estate, and we should be the smartest person. They're going to continue to evolve, and they're going to give you tools to make you even smarter. And so it's your opportunity is to learn and to use these tools. And so that's really up to you. They're going to provide everything, both the tools and the training, and then for you to learn. I want to end with a couple thoughts. So the first one was that panel on virtual and the future and things like that. I had the opportunity to go to the Vincent van Gogh exhibit, the immersive exhibit that's it's roaming around the country. It's a very cool experience. If you haven't seen it, just go look up Vincent van Gogh exhibit. Basically, what they do is they insert you into the paintings. And how do they do that? They get pretty much cheap industrial space that they lease. So the room that I was in was about 50 by 100 feet with a 25-foot ceiling, and every surface was covered with a screen. The ceiling, the walls, the floor. And you go in, and there are multiple projectors projecting on all those surfaces, and you are inside one of Vincent van Gogh's paintings. So if it's the one that's a wheat field that's got crows flying in it, the crows are flying, are moving around, or whatever. If it's one that's like a landscape, and you're looking out over this valley, and you can see a hay wagon in the distance, it's not just sitting there; it's the hay wagon's moving, and you can watch the hay wagon, and you can turn around and look up, and it's like having those Oculus glasses, but it's a room, so it doesn't make you sick. Like Sorry, those 3D glasses make my head spin. They also do have an Oculus Glass 3D experience where you can walk through through the paintings. If there was a road painted, you're walking by the road and by a cafe or whatever it is. It was very cool. It was, frankly, I don't think I could go to a regular art museum ever again because it was so cool. It was a moving experience. Now let's flash forward 5 years from now, and you go to your favorite real estate agent's office, and they have a room. It's not as big, maybe it's 15 by 20 with a 12-foot ceiling, but all the walls are covered with screens. And you go and you are flying through your town 100 feet up on a drone, in effect. And then you land at the house, and then you walk into the front door, and you can look up, you can look down, you can see where that closet, you're not trying to unpack the Matterport in your brain or figure out the flow plan. You're inside the house, and then you wander all the way through, you're out in the backyard, and then you say, you know what, I really want to get a sense of where this is in the neighborhood. So now you're 100 feet up, 200 feet up in your little drone's eye view of the world. And then you say, well, where's the kids school? And next thing you know, your drone is flying over to where the school is. You really could get an experience that could be just amazing. And that's the metaverse. That's where we're all headed, whether we like it or not. And that's where we're gonna go, and it's gonna be cool. And this stuff's too expensive for any one MLS or any one broker to do. Maybe some of the biggest could start to think about it, but in reality, where it's going to happen is the big vendors who provide 60% of all MLSs in the United States. They have the money to invest in this kind of stuff, and it's going to be a mutual partnership between brokers and NAR and vendors and whatever to create this kind of experience. And we're already seeing seeing the early signs of it. Excuse me, and the early steps towards it. But it's going to be great. So when you're going to mid-year or national and you go to the convention, do like Sarah and go wander around the floor and look at all the different vendors and see what's coming, because there's a lot of cool stuff coming. Also, I just wanted to all mention, so since I was chair of the MLS committee last year, and I'm chair of the Emerging Issues Advisory Board at NAR, which is meeting next week, I wanted to talk in particular about the listing attribution rule that got passed. So what happened with that is we've had IDX, Internet Data Exchange, where all brokers agree that we're all going to share all of our data and it's going to power all of our own websites. We, from the very beginning, have had attribution where we had to say, if I am a Berkshire Hathaway Home Services broker, and I'm showing a Remax broker's listing, it had to say listing courtesy of Remax and the name of the broker. All that changed in November was that we have to provide contact information. So there was a MLS committee that discussed this, and there was a motion that to add agent name to that attribution, and that did not pass. But when it went to the leadership team, they said, well, what's contact information and who provides it? And so they wanted to clarify, and the leadership team, the executive committee of NAR is about 90 people, and they proposed an amendment to say that the listing broker who owns the listing gets to decide where they answer the phone or where they answer the email. The reason for that is some brokers have reload departments. Some have e-teams that answer all their online leads. Others say, you know, I want it to go to the branch office, to the duty desk. Others say, you know what, the listing agent is the one who knows most about that property. Use the listing agent's phone number. The bottom line is it was decided that the listing participant knows where they're going to answer the phone. So it shouldn't be sent to anywhere other than where they say, use this phone number. It seems fair. The question came into, well, what about it? Does the listing broker have to say, for all of my listings, always use this one phone number, or could they decide listing per listing per listing? What's happening in a lot of parts of the country is the advent of these huge teams. So you'll have a team leader who is the listing agent because his name is on the listing, and he's working underneath a broker, but he has team members, and these team members might each be responsible for 3 listings. And so he wants the listing, the cell number of that team member to be the one for listing number 1, and then listing number 6, it should be a different person or whatever. So the idea was, and that's the way it got passed by the board of directors of 900 people, was that the listing participant gets to pick, and the FAQs, and Mitch even read it out there, says that it can be the agent's phone number. It can't be the agent's name. It's still the broker's name, but it can be per listing. It will be at the discretion of the listing participant. That has created a little problem in that it's a little harder to implement, and that's why this extension was granted until September 1st for the programming to be done at the MLS level, and then to be done at the brokerage level where you're going to display it on IDX. So that's a long answer to a short problem, but I just wanted, since I'm here, I thought I would give you the answer. So Jeff, any questions or anything else I can answer?
Thanks a million, John. That was awesome. Little overview of MLS tools, and thanks for touching on the attribution rule there, because I know that one is a confusing one. It seems like technology is in our way of implementing that right now, and I think all of our vendors are rolling up their sleeves and trying to do the best we can right now and get something out on that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, John. I know I've seen you on the stage, on the national stage, many times, and I really appreciate your 2 cents, and look forward to meeting you in person one of these days.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'll see you at mid-year.
Have a great day. Thanks a million to John. Well, every game must come to an end, and I think we're at the bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, 3 balls, 2 strikes, and we are about to wrap it up. I just kind of wanted to summarize the game calls today. Our first batter was Craig. His takeaway was lighten up. Don't take yourself so seriously. Our second speaker was Leslie. Industry is under a microscope. Go to competition.realtor. Mitch, he talked about MLS, summary of MLS changes. We're always changing. And this year, NAR passed more MLS policies and change than any other year. The panel, I think my takeaway with them was get techie with it. Offer services, things like flow plan, high-res pics, drone photography. Next batter was Chris. He talked about collaboration and making the market work with accurate data. I think at the core of everything we do at MLS is the accuracy of our data. And lastly, we had John, who talked about being a tech explorer. Know what your MLS has to offer. We all struggle with that at the MLS. We have a lot of tools to offer, but we always strive in trying to market them to all of you. And lastly, what John's message was is the MLS is here for you. So here we are, the last pitch. And I think I would like to thank all of our sponsors. First of all, the 3 MLSs that all came together to make this happen. Daniel, Megan, and myself. I'd like to thank HomeSnap, Homes.com, Realtor.com, RPR, Black Knight, FBS, CRS Data, and United Realty. And I know there's a lot of other sponsors out there, but on behalf of all of our sponsors and everybody involved, awesome job. And I was such a pleasure to be your game announcer today. Thank you and have a great day.